Hey Jonathan, let's take a look at your week 3 assignment 2. I would agree with you. I think your 2-point is working out a little bit better than your 2-point or than your 1-point is. The coloring feels a little bit better. The shading for sure feels better. And I think texturally it comes across as a little cleaner and better defined. Not sure exactly, what's going on here that is such a distinction from what's going on here. Coloring, I think, is one choice that it just is a little bit too dark, so I think you really have to work to get the texture to come through, where that's not the case in the 2-point. So that might be one thing that we're seeing. It's also so dark that getting value distinctions is going to be more difficult, so that again might be something else to be said. But even just the overall kind of structure feels a little bit kind of lacking to me, like the table leg. You've got the front part of the table leg, but you don't have kind of the side part of the table leg, which we would actually be seeing some amount of. The texture just doesn't feel as kind of easy to read. It feels a little heavy-handed, doesn't feel quite as convincing on the top plane, and we're not seeing something like that in the 2-point. And again, even with the legs, you see a little bit more kind of girth to them. So I think whatever you're doing here is something that you'll want to channel as you move to assignment 3. Perspective seems to be working out fine, I think, in both cases. I think the cast shadows are something that you may want to just kind of simplify and just have it kind of work underneath the actual object instead of trying to have it interacting with the back wall, which it just doesn't come across as convincing to me. At some point you're going to have to see this kind of this part of the table casting a shadow. If the light is coming from anywhere from above, it's going to be on the ground plane at some point. The only way this cast shadow would exist if a spotlight was shining on it kind of directly here at the front of the table, but I think we would see much stronger. It doesn't seem kind of feasible. So I think trying to just make it a little easier on yourself too, and just work with more predictable shadows will work out fine. The lighting is good in terms of the shading and having kind of one dark side and a medium kind of valued side. There might be a little bit of white being applied here, but I'm not sure, and I think you could definitely push it a little bit more if you want that top plane to stand out. You can even try and go in with kind of that kind of a shininess texture, where you just go in with a colored pencil and create a little bit of transparent kind of streaks of highlight that are going to give it a little bit of a gloss. That's up to you, but I think it does need a lighter value for this kind of top plane. You'll also want to watch your coverage. Your edge quality, especially on the 1-point, is very erratic. I'm seeing a lot of areas where it feels very sketchy and isn't kind of aligning with your drawing. The biggest issue for me is the background, though, in both cases. But the 1-point, this is just really, you don't want to do this. It makes the drawing worse. The coverage, the inconsistency of the coverage, the really dark color that's contrasting with the white, how it just doesn't want to touch the edges of anything of the object, and this is in both cases. It feels incomplete, and this is one of the main reasons why we cut edges when we're doing marker, especially in these types of situations, so that you don't have these white areas between edges of things. And so it looks it's just too much contrast. You have this really bright white next to this very dark blue, or this very dark red, or this very kind of intense green, and it starts to take away from the object itself. It becomes harder and harder to focus on the object proper when you have all this stuff going on in the background. I think, again, the 2-point has the benefit of being a little more consistent in its coverage where there is coverage, although it still has this white stuff around it. But the 1-point, this is just, I don't even know what's going on here, but this is something that you would definitely need to clean up, no matter what, even for this kind of sketchy exercise. I think there has to be a little bit more done to get this to work better.